Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. As you know, I just came back from Japan where I traveled extensively and met with many people in the auto industry. I also went to the Tokyo Auto Salon and some of the Toyota related factories out there. So I'm now ready to announce or give you some new information on what's coming ahead in terms of Land Cruiser, Lexus GX, and Toyota 4Runner. Lots of stories and speculation that I can provide to you, even though we don't know for sure what's going to happen this year and beyond. I think I can give you a pretty good idea. So let's get right into the discussion about what is happening with Land Cruiser, 4Runner, and Lexus GX. By the way, Akio Toyoda recently announced that he'll be stepping down as the president of Toyota to be replaced by Koji Sato, who is currently the president of Lexus and Gazoo Racing. So I was really fortunate to be able to see Akio Toyoda in person at the Tokyo Auto Salon because most likely this was his last auto show presence. In the future, Koji Sato will be taking place as a primary person to be giving presentations and so forth. And I was also very honored that I was the only person out of the thousands of people there that simply stepped in front of Akio and said, "Can I take a picture with you? I've met you before. I'm a media." And he said yes. And so here we are. We have a selfie with Akio Toyoda and likely the last photo with Akio. So I'm really thankful that I had a chance to do that. And now let's get back into the story. Welcome back. So here I am back in North America with lots of stories and speculation and scoops about what is going to happen with some of the most important models for us. That includes Lexus GX, which I own now. This is a 2023. And Toyota 4Runner, which I also own behind me right here. And then the most fascinating story of the year, which is Land Cruiser or Land Cruiser Prado. So what are going to be happening with these models this year? Well, based on all my investigation and research and networking with people, here are some of the summary of what I can tell you for this year and beyond. First and foremost, the Lexus GX, or rather its sister model, the Land Cruiser Prado, for sure is coming out this year as a new generation model. In case you weren't aware, the Land Cruiser Prado and Lexus GX are basically identical models except for the powertrain and interior and some of the exterior design. So for example, the GX has a V8 engine here in North America, likely to go away for next generation model, but right now it has a V8 engine. And then in Japan, the Land Cruiser Prado has either a V6 or diesel engine, which will likely become a turbo diesel or turbo diesel with hybrid. But other than that, the two models are quite similar, and that's where some of the confusion starts. So for example, are we actually getting the Land Cruiser Prado this year, or are we getting the new Lexus GX? And what about Japan or Asia then? Are they getting the Land Cruiser Prado as a new generation and not the GX? What's going on? Well, a couple of things I can tell you. One is for sure we are getting an all-new Land Cruiser Prado in Japan. In fact, one of the dealers I've spoken to said November of this year in 2023 is when they anticipate to actually receive the Land Cruiser Prado. So he said that maybe a couple months before that, likely in mid-September, Toyota will unveil the new generation Land Cruiser Prado as an all-new model. So I think that's a guaranteed story that Land Cruiser Prado will show up in Asia by November of this year. What about North America? Well, we are anticipating this new generation Land Cruiser Prado to be a global product, including North America. So if they're going to launch it in Asia or Japan for, let's say, September reveal, then I think that will be a worldwide premiere and a worldwide reveal. So in September, we should be able to see a Land Cruiser Prado that is destined both for Asia and also for North America. Now, I'm not quite sure if the North American version will be called Land Cruiser Prado or just Land Cruiser. We're not quite sure about that. But either way, we're going to get some kind of Land Cruiser this year with a launch likely in September with a delivery to dealers sometime end of this year. So that's probably the most exciting news and the news that you guys have been waiting for. So if there is still any doubt that Land Cruiser is coming to North America, you can pretty well ignore them now because it's almost certain that it is coming to North America and it is definitely coming this year. So that's the very important first news. The second news is the Lexus GX, which is very closely related to the Land Cruiser Prado. And I know many of you guys said, why would Toyota have both the GX and Land Cruiser Prado at the same time when they are very similar? Well, Toyota already has many models that are shared across Lexus and Toyota, such as Lexus NX and Toyota RAV4. and even Toyota Venza, as well as Grand Highlander that's coming up that is closely related to Lexus TX, so forth, so forth. So there's no surprise that there will be two similar models on the Lexus side and Toyota side. So there will be a new Lexus GEX based on the new Land Cruiser Prado also coming out, and my best guess is that it will come out maybe 2 or 3 months after the Land Cruiser Prado as a worldwide introduction. Well, that seems to be the historical thing that Toyota and Lexus do. One is introduced first, and the other one's introduced a few months later. So I think the all-new Lexus GX will just be a few months behind the Land Cruiser Prado introduction. And here's one interesting news. I'm hearing rumors that Toyota/Lexus will introduce the Lexus GX for the Asian market as well, wherever the Lexus brand exists. So for the first time in history, Japan and Asia might get the Lexus GX as a model to be added in addition to all the Lexus models. And that's a very exciting news for Japanese market and some other Asian market because they never had a GX in its history. So that also supports the notion that it is okay for Toyota and Lexus to have both Land Cruiser Prado and GX to coexist, because that's going to be happening here in North America, but also it's going to be happening in Asia. So just to clarify, if you thought it is a Land Cruiser 300 series that's coming to North America, I don't think so. That one is going to stay out of the North American market, so I don't think we're going to get that. Now, in terms of styling and design, I'm hearing that both the Lexus GX and the Land Cruiser Prado will have the retro heritage look, but with a different approach for the GX versus the Land Cruiser Prado. So that could be pretty interesting because they will have styling that's reminiscent of 1980s and 1990s, early 2000 Land Cruiser design, and even maybe having some FJ Cruiser look. In fact, I heard that the Land Cruiser Prado prototype that was shown had the heritage blue body color with a white roof, just like the original FJ Cruiser. So here's another story though. What about the 4Runner? Because this is the one that everybody is talking about, asking about, and they really want to know what's going on. Well, unfortunately, there's not much story about the 4Runner in Japan during my time there, because the 4Runner is not sold in Japan. It used to be sold as a Hilux Surf, but not anymore, and it hasn't been there for many years. So there's no interest, actually zero interest from the Japanese side in terms of what is happening with the 4Runner. So my speculation in terms of my latest understanding is that the 4Runner is delayed by at least 1 year. So expect the 4Runner to come out a year after the Land Cruiser Prado and the new Lexus GX. So sometime in the fall of 2024, not fall of 2023. So I know that's a bit of a disappointing news for you guys, but I'm almost certain that 4Runner will not come out this year as a 2024 model year, but instead come out sometime late fall of 2024 calendar year as a 2025 model. And actually the reasons are at least very clear, and that is because of the surprising demand for Ford Bronco and also even the Jeep Wrangler. And Toyota, I think, was caught off guard with what is happening with this kind of overlanding, extreme off-roading type of market, and they want to make sure that next generation 4Runner meet that demand or meet the expectation. So perhaps what they had to do is go back and redesign some components of the new 4Runner to make sure that it has the sufficient rugged look and off-road look to compete with the Bronco and Jeep Wrangler. I think originally perhaps the 4Runner was more of an evolutionary design change, but now I think they're going back to the drawing board and making sure that it has that kind of a true off-roader look. What does that mean? Would the roof come off, for example? I'm not quite sure about that. That might be a little bit too much for Toyota, but I really think it will have some of the original Land Cruiser look from 1970s or 1980s, maybe even FJ Cruiser look to go along with the new body for the 4Runner. So I think it will have a lot more retro look and a lot more rugged look that was not originally expected. Now you might be a bit confused because I am also saying that the Land Cruiser Prado and possibly the Lexus GX will have heritage design. So what does that mean for the 4Runner's heritage design? Well, I think the 4Runner will be closer to the Ford Bronco and Jeep Wrangler type of design. So not just heritage and retro, but also a lot more rugged and kind of extreme overlanding style, versus the Land Cruiser Prado and Lexus GX likely looking more like some of the heritage Land Cruiser, versus the 4Runner more likely to look like a classic and some of the older FJs as opposed to the newer FJs, if that makes sense to you guys. So that's my speculation for the 4Runner, and most likely it will get the 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with or without hybrid. I really don't think the 4Runner will get the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 that I expect to have in the new Lexus GX and maybe even the new Land Cruiser Prado, simply because you have to position the 4Runner below the Land Cruiser Prado in terms of the pricing and also in terms of power and torque. So what I would expect is the Lexus GX should have a detuned version of the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 with and without hybrid, followed by the Land Cruiser Prado, which will likely have a 3.4 liter twin turbo V6, again with or without hybrid, but maybe less power than Lexus GX, and then the new generation 4Runner, which will unfortunately likely stay with a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now, I know that some people are saying that the Land Cruiser Prado should have the 2.4 4-cylinder turbo, so the Lexus GX can have the bigger V6 engine, and that is still a possibility. But I think both the Land Cruiser Prado and GX will have the V6, and the 4Runner will have a turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, regardless, I expect the TRD Pro version of the 4Runner to have the 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with a hybrid to boost the power and torque. So not to worry, at least the TRD Pro or whatever the flagship model might be should have substantially more power and torque than the standard turbocharged 4-cylinder. That is my speculation for now, and of course things could change as we go closer and closer to launch date. So just to clarify, the 4Runner will not come out this year, not even early next year, but instead end of next year as a 2025 model year. But for those of you who are wondering whether Toyota will drop the 4Runner altogether, I'm 100% sure that will not happen. They're still selling in the neighborhood of 150,000 units a year for 4Runner, North America wide, and there's no way they're going to ignore such a high volume model. So we can expect to have all these models coexist at the same time. That is the Land Cruiser Prado, the Lexus GX, and the Toyota 4Runner all happening at the same time, in addition to, of course, the new Toyota Tacoma that is coming out this year. I'm sure that we will hear more stories about the Land Cruisers and GX and 4Runner as time goes on, and I will make sure that you guys are the first person to hear about it if I hear something from anywhere at all. And to finish off, as you know, I was in Tahara City in Japan, where these cars are produced. I can almost guarantee that all three models will be produced at the same factory where they are produced now, which is in Tahara factory, about an hour away from Nagoya in Japan. And that's where Lexus GX, Land Cruiser Prado, and the Toyota 4Runner will be produced. And by the way, just to clarify, the Land Cruiser 300 series and Lexus LX are not built in Tahara factory. They are actually built in Yoshiwara factory, which is part of another Toyota division as a subsidiary of Toyota. So actually the two factories are not identical. So these are some of the stories I want to share with you today. I hope this was meaningful. More information and more insights coming your way. But for now, if you're able to give me a thumbs up, make some comments, and subscribe, that would truly appreciate it. I'm really happy to be back in North America, but I got a lot more stories coming in terms of Japan, Tokyo Auto Salon, and speculation, so keep an eye on my channel. Thank you so much.